Good morning, YouTube. Hope everybody's doing great. It is 10 o'clock on Sunday, and you are watching another Salty Texas production. Thought I'd do something different in the intro today. Instead of saying hello all of the time, we're doing, different stuff here in 2021. And today we are doing another epoxy resin project using epoxy, red oak, and these cool, Texas cutouts that somebody wanted me to make for a small little dish. And I have never done anything like this before, and as I always say with several projects that I've already done up to this point, this is hands down probably the best and coolest project that I have ever done so far. So let's get into it. So basically, we're setting up the whole bowl. We have small little blocks of redwood. This is leftover scrap that I, for some reason, have a plethora of. And we're building a nice little rim around it. We put the Texas stencils at the middle, and then I put this piece on top so we can attach a waste block to it. So here we are going to pour in an entire quart of epoxy, and I did admittingly use way too much epoxy for this initial portion of the project. However, it's gonna look a lot better when I do this again later on in the year. By the way, I did this project January 3rd was the completion date. You guys are watching this sometime in June, but I had a lot of time on my hands and I have to stack these videos because of work. But hey, it's cold. You can still get epoxy wood turning done. Anyway, so back to the project. So here I am. I poured the resin in. Realized that I poured too much of it, and I'm trying to stretch out the sides of it because I'm trying to make sure all the epoxy got in all those little cracks and crevices. And then I noticed, yeah, bro, you used way too much epoxy. So here's the casting out of the pressure pot. 4.5 hours in the pressure pot, and there it is. Nice red oak using East Coast resin yet again for these projects. I think for the entire year of 2021, I've used East Coast resin. So it's a good product, as I always do say. And you can see where the waste block was, where I put a piece of pine. You can see the Texas stencil and then the outer portion of it. So I've realized at this point I've had too much material, but we'll uniquely get rid of that extra material here a little bit. So here we are putting the waste block on, which is already on, and we're just taking our Ryobi drill and putting the faceplate back on it so we can just turn it onto the lathe. So here we go. Attaching that up, and you see there I'm wearing an apron. It's freezing cold in the actual garage at this time. It was like around 27 degrees the day I actually did this bowl, and I'm actually freezing. So if you ever do woodworking when it's really cold in your garage or your workshop, I'm sure you know the pain of having very cold hands, because I do wear gloves with my projects, and a lot of woodworkers tell you don't do that around a lathe. Do what you want. It's, do it at your own risk, and I do it at my own risk. So here we are, just getting everything, kind of into that nice cylinder shape that we typically like to see. Working that back end where we're going to do the mortise, and I've learned that doing the back portion of where the mortise is, getting that in that nice round shape is super important before you flip it onto the chuck, because if you go back and watch some of my videos, I used to do like a very flat, sharp edge bottom to a lot of my bowls, but I've realized that if I just work that edge on the side, on the bottom, it usually works out a lot better. And there I was with the regular carbide, not the regular carbide tool, but that was with the actual bowl gouge, and you saw that piece of epoxy that just basically flew off and hit me in the face. Luckily, I was wearing my face shield with it, but you see these big chunks. If you're not very careful, you can get significantly injured doing this. So here we are getting nice strips, nice ribbons off, nice shavings, and I keep rechecking to make sure everything is balanced. And you can see there where the chipping actually occurred, and these are large chunks, so I'm holding a piece right there, and imagine getting that stuck in your eye. Wear a face shield, people. And I didn't for the longest time. I didn't wear a face shield, but I've learned, hey, it's better to be safe, better to get that material worked off using the round carbide tool. Sometimes you get a little bit too aggressive with the bowl gouge on the sides, and when you hit that edge, it basically just shatters and flies off. But admittingly, I think also that the cold ambient temperature had a lot to do with how the epoxy reacted when I got to that portion of it. So here we are, realize that, I need to be a little bit more careful, and now we're just turning down the mortise. I have the bottom worked out the way that I typically will want to, and now we're just basically trying to get that bottom piece completely out. And if you notice from the beginning, I did have like a small little round dowel that I placed the actual Texas emblems on, and I'm trying to get deep enough to where I completely get that turned down where it's just the Texas portion of it. And I'm trying to be very, very careful not to puncture through the Texas, because we want that to show at the end of the project. And by this time in the project, I'm pretty happy with where we're at. I think I am going to go back here in a little bit. Yeah, I end up coming back with the square carbide tool, trying to get a little bit of that more material off. And I realized once I get that dowel all taken care of, I can come back with the round carbide tool, and it should be okay to reverse it in the chuck. And here I am again, moving the actual banjo and just working that edge off. So I've gotten the mortise to the depth that I actually want by this point, and now I'm just removing as much material as I can, finishing up that edge before we turn it and flip it onto the actual chuck itself. And by this time, I didn't have a lot of issues or anything. And then here we are with the piece in the actual chuck. So you see all this extra material that I had here. I just took a parting tool and having a little bit of success getting the separated material. And if you've seen some of my projects, I will actually work off a lot of the material with the round carbide tool and with the actual bowl gouge. But I decided there is so much material here, it is just simply faster if I go in with a parting tool and a saw and just cut all that stuff off, because it was just absolutely too much material. You can see there, look at all that material. And by this time, I'm like, okay, cool. We got all that off, worked that material off, and now we're just going to get that nice flat surface so we can start the actual bowl gouging process. And I've learned if you use both the chuck and the actual tailstock, it works a lot better for keeping everything stable. And that's essentially what we're doing here. And I've also learned in this project, use the round carbide tool. I used to just go ahead and try to get a flat surface with the square carbide tool, and I get chipping and shattering every time I do that. So the round carbide tool has become my absolute best friend. I absolutely love it, and I think you should use, in my opinion, I like using that tool for a flatter edge than I do using the square carbide tool. Square carbide tool does have its place, but it's a little bit easier and I get less chipping if I just go ahead and attack it with a round carbide tool. So here we are, got the bowl gouge out, trying to gouge out the middle, and it's going to be a fairly shallow type of project here, so not a lot of material that I have to work out. The big thing that I'm concerned about is going too deep in where I'm messing up the Texas emblem. And I really didn't run into that issue. The big issue that I did end up having was getting the edge worked out the way that I typically will want to. So I'm trying to make it shallow enough to where you can see the Texas emblem, but still have enough material to where it actually looks like a small dish. So boom, now we're zoomed in, working that edge, like I said, trying to keep everything very nice and clean, because I don't want to have any more chipping or shattering, and I absolutely know for a fact the ambient air is affecting the overall epoxy. So we're just being very delicate on the sides here, and you can see there, boom, I had a little bit of chipping there. You can see where I kind of flinched with the bowl gouge there. So then I just came back, worked the edge again, getting rid of that superficial chipping, using that round carbide tool. It is, my friend, it's probably my most favorite tool since I got into carbide tools. It absolutely does a lot of the work for me. So realize that using the actual bowl gouge probably wasn't, applicable to this anymore. So then I just came back, hit it with a round carbide tool, squaring off the bottom with the square carbide tool, as well. And here we are, just working that final edge, getting everything nice and rounded, and we're almost done with the actual gouging portion of it, which went by really fast. I like doing these smaller projects because they go a little bit quicker. Typically the deeper bowls, it's a little bit more difficult to get, kind of motivated to do that. But this turned out absolutely beautiful. So we did a lot of sanding with this because we wanted it to be as crystal clear as possible in typical salty Texas fashion. Went from 340, and we're going to go ahead and work our way up to the micro mesh. And by this time I'm wet sanding and my hands are absolutely freezing by this point, and I'm just like, I need this to be over. But if you want that good finished product, you have to come back and hit it with that wet sanding. It's the only way to get that nice cool finish on it. So then we just came back, hit it with the wood wax, and by this time I'm like, this is absolutely gorgeous. And it took me forever, by the way, to get the actual wax out of the actual bottle because it had frozen over. And here we are about to see the actual finished project. A little bit more wax to get that polish done. And at some point I'm going to buy actual polish, by the way. And here we are. So we're going to stop the lathe, and then boom, here is our finished project. You can see the great state of Texas right there in the middle, and that red oak just looks absolutely amazing. This turned out much better than I initially thought it was going to turn out, especially for this being my first try at doing something like this. It turned out absolutely beautiful. Here it is in the sun, just glistening everywhere. Real cool. You can see that red oak, that polish. It looks exactly what I wanted it to look like, and I hope you guys enjoyed the project as much as I did. Like I said, I did this January 3rd. It was cold, freezing in the garage. Hope everybody's having a good summer. You guys will be watching this sometime in June. It's cold right now in Texas as I'm doing this commentary. It actually snowed. But anyway, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and I will catch you guys in the next project. So, peace. Okay, so project is done, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Look at the great state of Texas. And that wood on the side, not a lot of issues with it. The epoxy's chipping, obviously. Hold on just a second. Shrapnel coming off. You know, this is why you wear safety equipment. Imagine getting that shit in your fucking eyeball. That would super suck. But we were able to salvage it. Actually, this is exactly the way I wanted it to do. All that leftover, I poured too much epoxy, as I typically sometimes will do, and just had to get rid of it instead of working it down. Whoa! Oh my God. Okay, so I gotta hurry up and go. That's God's way of telling me, hey, shut the fuck up. But really love the way this project looks. You got that red oak in there, and just nice shallow little dish for somebody. This is actually an ashtray for somebody. Yeah, I don't smoke myself, but that's what they wanted it for, and they just wanted the state of Texas in there. So overall, really happy the way it turned out. Hope you liked the project. I'm going to do some more of these. These are absolutely fucking fantastic. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next project. All right, hope everybody's having a good summer. By the way, it's like January 3rd today, so you guys won't watch this until June. But anyway, hope you like it. All right, see you later. Bye.